Hey you, yeah you who clicked on this video. Thanks for giving our channel a shot. And if you will, please do us the honor of watching the video all the way through. Appreciate it. Now onto the video.
Hello, fellow 8-Bit Heroes. Today we're going to talk about Season 2, Episode 3 of From, entitled Tether. So this episode starts with Boyd checking in with Ellis. And he's trying to explain to Ellis what has happened to him throughout his journey without actually telling Ellis the entire truth. And obviously, Ellis is very frustrated with this because he knows that Boyd isn't telling him something, but this is only compounded by the fact that Ellis is very flustered and combative because of what happened over the last evening with the monsters attacking with him and Fatima. And so I love this scene because we get to see a lot of just father-son moments with Boyd and Ellis. And, Boyd is able to put Ellis on some game and give him some fatherly advice about not giving up and really about taking the lead as far as being that thing that keeps Fatima's humanity intact and doesn't let the town basically overtake her and essentially defeat her. And so Boyd also, throws in a jab about that little rinky-dink ring, the metal wire that Ellis gave Fatima. He's like, you can do better than that. I love that. I don't know why. I don't know if that was in the script or if Harold Perrineau ad-libbed that, but I love that scene. So then we get Christy and Tabitha seeing after Jim with Julie and Ethan. And Jim is obviously very grateful that Tabitha is safe, telling her that he can't lose her. And she tells him about the wires and that they aren't connected to anything. And he tells her then that, that they have a lot to talk about. He has a lot of stuff to tell her. And I'm assuming that he's going to be telling her about the voice that came over the other side of the radio. We have Donna and bus passengers have another issue. It's the same dude. Like, I don't know if this is like supposed to be like an anti-firearm message or if it's just this dude being an asshole. But he didn't learn his lesson, obviously, so now he wants to take his guns and go on a hunt for these monsters. And Donna's telling him that they ain't gonna do a bit of good. Like, there's no real point. More importantly, one of the rules of the town is that citizens are not allowed to carry firearms outside of law enforcement because there's no real need in this situation. I mean, I'm 2A all the way, but in this situation, it's not really necessary because the monsters can't be hurt. Like we already know that firearms don't do anything to them. So in the midst of this back and forth, Boyd comes up and he basically lays down the law like we've never even seen it. He just told Homeboy straight up, either you want to be in this town and you're going to give up your guns until such a time that they're needed, or you can go live out in the woods. After dark, we'll see how long you last. And of course, the passenger guy, he makes the right decision and he lays it down, and then we can move on with the business of trying to figure out how to get out of here. So Tabitha is now looking outside of the diner and she sees the demolished rubble that used to be her house. And of course, this, she's taken aback by it, obviously, but she's trying not to show it because her kids are there. Ethan wants to see Victor, and he tells Tabitha that that he and Jade broke into Victor's room, and that Victor will more than likely be upset with him. Tabitha goes to talk to Miss Liu and asks for permission to go through the storage because obviously they don't have any more clothes or supplies. And she tells Tabitha that she can stay at her house with her and Kenny and Jade. So I don't know what kind of problems this is going to cause, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works out with all of them staying under the same roof. Donna and Boyd go over supplies and survivors, and she of course asks Boyd what happened in the woods, and then he abruptly changes the subject because I don't think he's really come to terms with what exactly has happened, nor does he really know. So I think that, even though transparency might be the better way to go, I can understand why he's keeping things a little close to the vest until he has a little bit more information. Then we get to Ellis and Kenny, who are trying to basically reassemble the traps, and in doing so, they find one of the passengers, the one that was in the cabin, I don't know if it was a cabin or not, but one of the houses with her, boyfriend. Well, they find her pinned to a tree. So there's a rod sticking through her head and from the front to the back and then into a tree, and she cannot move. Victor, and then what's even crazier is that she's alive. I think that is, that's really the meat that this entire episode is really hanging off of. No pun intended for this episode. So Victor returns to his room, finds it ransacked due to Jade and Ethan, and he's looking for something. Obviously, he's looking under the bed for his violin, which is now missing. So he goes to confront Jade after asking, I still don't know who the young lady is who lost her eye in the storm, but she tells him that Jade and Ethan had been in his room. So he goes to confront Jade, who is playing the violin. Like, Jade is like a disrespectful man. Like, he's one disrespectful motherfucker, like, for real. So, Victor, of course, not having heard that violin be played for quite some time, pauses before knocking on the door and telling Jade to give him his violin back. Jade, of course, is telling him that, he didn't know if he was alive or dead, which I think is really a poor excuse for going through somebody's stuff in less than 24 hours from a person going missing, whatever. So we see this scene, and then we see that Jade is now trying to have this moment with Victor that he's been trying to have, where he can ask him the questions that he needs to ask about the symbols, about the visions, the whole night. And because Victor is emotionally unstable and really just upset about this violin, he tells Jade to stay away from it. So Mary and Christy talk, and Mary says that she's going to go stay with the other passengers and that she doesn't really want to stay with Christy. Then Kenny bursts in to tell Christy about the girl that's pinned to the tree. We find out her name is Kelly. She tells Ellis about her encounter with the monsters. Now, to me, this is very strange because up until this point, we didn't really know that the monsters like to play with their prey. We pretty much, from everything we know about them, once they corner you and they eat the insides and leave the rest of the body, and that's pretty much it. We've never seen them engage in any type of torture. So I'm really wondering if her accounting of events is reliable or if the monsters have changed tactics. So we see Jim moving around, despite Christy telling him that he needed to take it easy. We see the lights flickering, and obviously this is getting his mind turning as to what Tabitha said to him in regards to the wires not going to anything and just kind of hanging. So he checks the exit sign, which is flickering, and then the old woman comes in from the bus. Jim collapses, and Mary comes to help. And this banter between the old woman and Jim is interesting because she's not really giving very specific answers when he asks her where she came from, which I find strange, but maybe there's nothing. So Fatima takes Elgin around because she's basically a sponsor, to give him the tour and tell him, the do's and don'ts. And he asks if there's a body of water nearby. She takes him to the Brunnels, and he tells her that he had seen it previously in a vision, which is strange. Christy Ellis and Kenny talk about Kelly's options because they know that they don't have the equipment or the facilities to perform major surgery on her in an effort to save her life. So the best thing they can do, obviously, is to put her out of her misery before she starts suffering. Now, what's weird to me, and again, this brings back the anti-gun thing, where Kenny basically is like, look, we can take care of this in a very quick manner. And then Christy immediately rebuffs him by stating that she doesn't want this young lady's last moments to be with a gun to her head. But my thing is, if you don't have the drugs to put her out, and you don't really want her to suffer by removing the stake from her head, wouldn't a bullet be the fastest way? But, of course, Christy's feelings kind of outweigh the logic of the situation. And then we have Tabitha and Julie who try on clothes to see what fits so that they can start their new life at Kenny and his mother's house. And she sees two ghostly looking children and an unrestrained premonition. Then we get to Boyd, who goes to talk to his wife's grave, and kind of, this is what he does when he needs to get perspective and kind of, mull things over. So he goes and he's, of course, talking or having a monologue at the grave, and he's, entertaining the possibility that this could all be a dream. Of course, he knows that's not the case, but, he has to entertain the possibility. Julie then asks Tabitha about her vision. She tells her about hearing her crying brother Thomas after he died. And, Julie then asks if this is the same type of thing that she's experiencing. And of course, it's not. So then Kelly asks for Ellis and Kenny, and she asks for her phone so she can call her mom. But of course, she's informed by Christy that that's not a possibility because the phones don't work in town. So then we get to write mom a letter that she'll more than likely never see, but it's a comfort to Kelly, and so that's understandable. So then she starts screaming in pain. I guess now a lot of her situation is starting to catch up to her, and Boyd arrives and tells Christy and Kenny to leave because Boyd is going to do what's necessary. He's going to put her out of her misery. And then Christy, of course, refuses to do so. And so all of them together with Ellis remove the spike from her head, and she died. So after this really gut-wrenching moment, traumatized Christy begs Mary to stay. Kenny and Ellis talk about the monsters, and Ellis goes to talk to Fatima about getting married again, to which she says, okay, so there's going to be a wedding, obviously, Ellis and Fatima. Ethan's playing with a puzzle on the porch, and when he finishes the puzzle, it's literally the exact same puzzle that Fatima saw that Tabitha saw in the caves when she was with Victor. And so this brings on another vision of those ghostly children. Meanwhile, Donna is trying to cope with the events of last night, and she's obviously very shaken up. Boyd talks to her about the girl on the tree and that the monsters are acting differently. He tells her that that a person that he served with in the military who was impaled by an IED had the same name or combination name as the two people that died in the town. Not that that really means anything, you know what I mean? But it's just interesting that that's where his mind went. And, Donna then starts pressing him about what happened and telling him basically that she's not cut out to do his particular job. So he needs to be back and in working order so that he can help the people of the town and keep them alive. So we see Kenny at the church, and I guess he's looking for anything that he can use for a memorial for Kelly. And then he hears a rustling downstairs. He carefully goes down with gun drawn to check and see what the source of the noise is, only to find Sarah. And that's the end of the episode. So guys, let me know what you thought about this episode. What do you think is going on, especially with Boyd really entertaining the idea that everything that's happening is a dream? Do you think there's any real correlation between Brian and Kelly and the soldier that passed away in Boyd's arms? What's going on with Sarah? What was her experience like while Boyd was trapped in the well? Do you think we're going to get any answers as far as the symbols, Victor and Jade? And what is up with these children that Tabitha's seeing? Let's talk about it in the comments section, and we'll see you on the next one. 8-Bit Heroes out. Peace.
If you'd like to get a shout out on the channel, then hit that like button, maybe share it with a couple of friends, and do us the biggest honor of all, and subscribe to the channel so you can join the 8-Bit Heroes family. And while you're at it, hit that bell icon so you can be notified when our new videos come out.